Welcome to the installation and maintenance guide for SkillCourt version 8.0. The first thing we need to do is to download Android Studio from the web. For this, we go to developer.android.com and Studio. This link here will give you the Android Studio that is best for your system. In this case, since I'm running a Windows computer, it's giving me the Windows version. So let's click on it and let's save it to a location after we agree to the terms and condition. And let's put this on pause while it downloads. So now that the file has been successfully downloaded, let's double click on it to install it. Let's click on yes to continue, and then next. And we want to let it download the Android SDK and the virtual device, which is going to be able to emulate Android applications. So let's click on next. Make sure that you agree to the terms and click on I agree, and then leave the default location that it gives you. Click on next and then on install, and then let's just wait patiently while it installs. It might take anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes to install. During this time, while it's installing, we can actually go back to the GitHub page and download the files. Under the directory that says code, make sure that you download the directory itself. Another way that you can do it is directly from the project itself. You can just click on and download as a zip file. Make sure you know the location where you're downloading it to and click on save. So at this moment you should have two concurrent downloads, or actually one concurrent download and one installation going on at the same time. The installation for Android Studio is still going on. In the meantime, let's open up the file we downloaded from GitHub and let's extract it. If you notice, the size of the ventilation for the Android Studio for Windows is almost 5 gigabytes. Android Studio for Mac and for Linux is actually has a smaller footprint of about 500 megabytes, and installation before the actual virtualized environment, it's below 1 gigabyte. So for Windows, it's going to take much longer than it's going to take for Mac or for Linux. We noticed that the unzipping of the GitHub files have already been zipped, and we're just waiting for the installation to be finished. So now we click on next to begin the actual application. Let's just close this one since it recognized the previous installation. So in this case, what you want to do to import the project is actually to click on import project, specify the location, and then say OK. You'll notice that on this part at the bottom it says indexing, and what it's doing is actually checking each and every one of the files to make sure that it's correct and there are no problems with it. If there are any updates pending, it will mention them around this side, and they will pop up as a balloon. But let's wait until it's done indexing, and then let's see if it gives us any warnings. The updates would actually be the maintenance done on the actual project, and what the updates do, they update the libraries and any other embedded applications that run beside the Android device or application. So now that it's finished indexing, it's giving us a warning here, or actually an error. So it's not gonna let us go forward. This is part of the maintenance. So we click on install build tools, version 25, so that we can continue using the project. This will bring up a new dialog box which is for the tool itself to download it. And we have to agree to the terms by clicking accept. Make sure you read this, all of it, if you haven't done so before, and click on next. And then if you notice here, it's gonna say please wait until the installation finishes. So let's just wait before we do anything. And even if the next button becomes enabled, let's just wait until it's done. Now that it's telling us that it's done, let's click on finish. If you notice, it's reopening the project again by itself automatically. It will do this and it will recheck again if it needs any dependencies. And if it does, then it's gonna ask us again to update. Now the good thing about Android Studio is that it's pretty good in going back there and telling us, do you want to get this? And it's going to do it by itself as long as you give it the permission necessary. Always make sure that you check on the status around this part at the bottom. Usually when it's indexing and when the Gradle is running, you're gonna have to have a lot of patience because that's when it goes the slowest. Now it's finished with the Gradle. It was doing indexing. It's scanning again. And it's going to let us know if it's okay to proceed or not. If you have noticed, until this moment, we haven't been able to look at the code itself or the actual structure of the code. It has been doing maintenance and updates. So it's no longer giving us any more warnings. Nothing else is running. So let's click on project and looks like it's there. So let's click on app, on Java, on SkillCourt, and on the SkillCourt app, and looks like everything is there. If you're gonna be doing the GitHub automatically, it's best if you do it from the command line. So I'm gonna click on cancel in this case, because it usually comes in with a package one, with whoever used it last. Now, what we want to do also is download the image in order for you to be able to run the virtualized environment. So in order to do that, we're going to click here on the AVD manager. And when we click there, you're going to notice that there are no virtual devices installed. So we're going to click on create virtual device. It's asking us which type do we want to load. The one that we want is the one for the phone. We're going to get the one for the Nexus 5X, which is the default. And we are going to click next. On the next screen, there's the next version of Android, which is 7.0. Otherwise known as Nougat, and it's asking us if we want to download it. Unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to do anything if we don't download it. As you can see down here, assistant image must be selected to continue. So let's select this one and let's click on download at the same time. We're going with the 7.0 because the 8.0 it's newer and it's still under testing and it might have too many bugs. And if you're trying to debug an application, it doesn't help when the operating system itself is being debugged at the same time. So just like before, let's not click on anything and let's just wait As the warning states, please wait until the installation finishes. And what it's doing at this moment is downloading the actual image. That will be the whole operating system that runs on an Android device, a smartphone in this case. Once it has downloaded, then it's going to install it into the virtual device. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just wait. Looks like it's finished downloading, so now we're going to click on finish. Now if you notice, it's letting us select the whole thing. It's turning blue, and it's allowing us to click on next. So we're going to click on next. Since we want this to resemble the image on a phone, we're going to leave it as a portrait, which is the default, and let's leave everything else the same. If you want to change the name, you can change it, but this is pretty much specifying the device and the version number of the API. So that's good, and let's leave it like that. Let's click on finish. And now for our devices, we have this. So this is going to allow us to run the application. So let's close this now, and let's attempt to run the application. So when you click on run, it's going to actually bring up the virtual devices available. If nothing has been installed, then basically you can click here and it will be the same as if you had clicked on the create ADV before to create the virtual device. But since we already have it installed, it's coming up and we can click OK. And now it's giving us another warning that instant run needs to be set up. Let's click on this to proceed without instant run. It's going to run it anyway. On the first installation of the device, even though it's the virtual device, it's still going to go slow because it's going to do the full installation on the virtual device. So let's just be patient while it does that. So there it is. However, it's flickering a little bit, and what that means is that there are still a few processes running in the background. So let's leave it there for a few seconds while it finishes, since it was the first installation of the operating system on the virtual device. Got it? Into the application itself on Android Studio. And it's not going to allow us to run, so let's shut this down. If you're on Windows, you can just do Alt F4 to close the application itself. Let's just wait until the Gradle finishes building, and let's attempt to run it one more time. In this case, let's click on Install and Continue. Again, we have to wait a little bit until the installation is done. And then it's going to allow us to proceed to the next level or to finish the installation itself. So let's wait a few more seconds while it downloads and unzips and then installs the instant run. So now that it's done, we click on Finish. Let's go back to the virtual device. Let's shut it down. And we're only doing this so that it can give us the option of running the application. Once it shuts down, then we can just close it with alternate F4. It's going to do the build again, the Gradle build. Then it's going to do the indexing, and finally it's going to allow us to run. So now it's giving us an error. So this is a good thing because it gives you different views of what can happen. So in this case, let's do the uninstall. And then let's do the reinstall. Say okay. Let's just wait until the virtual device boots up. It's running in the background. And let's just wait until it transfers it. And there it is. I hope you have fun, okay?